Hello, my name is Manuel. I'm head of taxation at Portugalize. I'm a tax lawyer. I overview taxation from the moment that people are thinking about moving to Portugal, tell them where they are going to be taxed, if in the country of origin or here. And then I also help with compliance after people are in Portugal, how to structure themselves, how to comply with their personal income tax return obligations, for example, and anything of the sort. Today, we're here with Henrique. We're going to talk about visas. And Henrique, can you make an introduction about yourself?
Sure. I'm Henrique. I'm the head of immigration at Portugalize, and I'm a legal specialist that helps people moving to the country. So I oversee everything that's related to visas, residency permits, and also the more practical aspects of moving to the country.
We'll talk about the D8 digital nomad visa. Can you tell us a little bit about the requirements for the visa? Who is it for?
So the digital nomad visa is aimed for, as the name say, digital nomads or remote workers. In order to qualify for this visa, the main thing to consider is the income. You need to earn at least 4 times the Portuguese minimum wage, which is 920 euros. So multiplying that by 4, we got 3,680 euros. This income can derive from a traditional employment relationship, it can derive from freelancing activities, or it can derive from your own business income. For these two last situations, it's important to mention that you don't need to earn 3,680 euros every month. What the authorities will consider is the average on the last 3 months. So you can make, for example, 500 euros in 1 month, but if you make 10,000 in the 2 other months, you are more than fine, for example.
Okay, understood. And that's especially important for freelancers where their income can be more volatile, so the average will smooth out the variance. What about if someone is a freelancer in the UK, for example, would that be sufficient to qualify them for the D8 visa?
Yes, absolutely. It doesn't matter much where you are working from in the beginning. You just need to make sure that you are working for clients outside of Portugal, basically. That's really important.
Yes, if someone was providing services to Portuguese clients or if someone was employed by a Portuguese company, the D8 would not be the...
Exactly.
On top of the income requirements, what are other things people need together to apply for the
Yeah,
visa?
so the income is specific for the digital nomad visa. Then we have some general eligibility criteria that match basically all visas, which is to get the Portuguese NIF, which is the Portuguese tax ID number, to have a Portuguese bank account with a Portuguese IBAN, and also to have accommodation for at least 1 year. This can be by owning a property or by renting a property for at least 1 year. Something that is, for me, it's the biggest flaw in the system, because it's mandatory to have accommodation in Portugal even before you arrive here. I really don't think that makes much sense, but it's the reality and there's not much that can be done about that. Yeah, it's something that we support our clients with, either by connecting them to real estate agents or by providing legal support on everything related to that. So we can review the lease agreement, for example, to make sure that is first is valid for the visa, and second, that it protects the rights of the tenant.
So what would be the normal sequencing of things? Would people first engage with us and to start the visa process, get the appointment, etc., and after that get the rental contract? Or would they need to get the rental contract beforehand? What would be the best
It
sequence?
needs to be beforehand. So at the time of the appointment, when you go to the appointment, you already need to show the authorities that you have a lease agreement in place. It doesn't need, for example, let's say that you have the appointment on May the 1st. Your rental agreement can start on August the 1st. Okay, it just needs to be signed and ready at the time of the appointment. Because that's a question that I get a lot.
If you have the flexibility with the landlord, you can have a starting date that's even later than the moment where you have the visa appointment, because you'll take a while to get the visa.
Exactly.
And to actually be able to come here. How long does it take usually from the appointment until you get the visa?
By law, the authorities have 2 months to decide. And based on my recent experience, the authorities are kind of being faithful to that period. So I think it's a good number to remind, the 2 months. Of course, it can be a bit less, a bit longer, but the 2 months are...
But 2 months after the visa appointment would be a good time to have the rental contract start.
That would be the ideal. However, most landlords won't accept that because the real estate market in Portugal is really hot, is really competitive. So unless there's someone leaving the apartment in the future and that matches the time of entry of the new tenant, most landlords won't accept that.
It would imply that they will have for some months the house vacant, which is something that they will have.
As I said, doesn't make much sense, but it's a reality, and it's people just need to factor it in as a cost moving to Portugal, basically.
Right, and it's certainly a cost worth paying. That's what we've been hearing for most of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Can people engage with us and start the process with us before they have the rental contract, right? So they could start the process, and then they would either come to Portugal and find their own property, and we would help with everything that is legally related to the rental contract review, etc. Or they could even do it at distance with some of the real estate agencies that we have in Portugal and that we can make introductions to, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Of course, I always recommend to come in Portugal and check the places by themselves and the areas where they are living in. But if that's not possible for any reason, then it can be done fully remotely.
Right. And then, yeah, that's a good way where we can help prevent scams, because our partners are trusted. So we know that the properties that they have gathered are going to be there first, and are going to be there in the conditions that are expected by them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of scams related to rental agreements. So people just pay the deposit, and then the supposed landlord just vanishes in thin air. So yeah, there's something that we make sure that doesn't happen.
That's helpful, Eric. Thank you. And let's talk about what happens after someone gets the visa. What are the following steps?
You'll get a visa, actually, that is valid for 4 months and grants you 2 entries in the country. So it means that you can come to Portugal, leave the country, and then come back again. During this period, you will have an appointment with IMA. IMA is our immigration authority. And on this appointment, you'll basically hand over the same documents that you gave on the visa appointment, and plus they will take your fingerprints and take you a photo, so they take care of the biometrics. After this appointment, you will get your residency permit, which is the end goal of everything. After you get your residency permit, you will, as I say this, it's oversimplifying, of course, but you become a Portuguese citizen that can't vote. As I said, really oversimplified, but in practice, that's what happens. This residency permit is valid for 2 years. Then you can renew it for another 3 years. And after 5 years, you can apply for permanent residency. And at the time of this video, you can apply for citizenship as well after 5 years. But it's predicted in the really near future that this will increase for 10 years. In any case, people will still have the access to the permanent residency, which is really what people need, because that grants their rights to stay in the country forever, basically. Because when you renew the permanent residency after 5 years, you are just renewing the card itself, not the right, because the right is there forever. So in the end, deep down, the 5 years are still relevant, because getting the permanent residency is what most people are looking for, basically.
Can they still travel through Schengen space?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they have basically the same rights.
Yes, outside of a Portuguese passport and the ability to proudly claim that you're Portuguese, which is something that we value, there's no...
Yeah, there's not much practical advantages to that. Unless you are using Portugal as a base to then move to another country, because then you are a European Union citizen that can go to whatever country you want.
Another thing that is useful to talk about is that we have talked about the requirements in this case for the D8 digital nomad visa, specifically the income type. But what happens after you get the visa and you're in Portugal? Are you able to have other sources of income, or are you locked in this type of income that you applied for the visa with?
Yeah, so after you get the residency permit, which, as I said, is the end goal of everything, you are free to do whatever you want. You can start working for Portuguese entities. You can stop working if that's the case. So it's really flexible.
You have plain rights, plain economical rights.
Yeah, exactly.
The same thing would go if you had the D7 passive income visa. You'd be able to work, to have active income.
Yes, that's actually a big difference between for example, the Spanish non-lucrative visa, which is equivalent of the D7, is that in Spain they don't allow you to work at all. And in Portugal, D7 visa holders, after they get the residency permit, they are fully allowed to work.
This is something that I feel like is very important to be stressed, because I've heard a lot of people reading this online or in other sources where they couldn't, if they had a passive income visa, they couldn't just work in Portugal.
Yeah. So, and even AI tells people that, so there's a lot of misconception about that, but it's not true.
Thank you very much, Eric, for your time here. Thank you for everyone that's watching. I feel like this was a very comprehensive explanation of the D8 digital nomad visa. Feel free to book an intro call with us and an immigration consultation with Enrique as well, and we can certainly take it from there.